Hey, it's Bertie from Eurogamer here, joined by Martin Robinson from Eurogamer.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about the Battlefront beta today, which is a bit Marmite for people. So, Martin, are you a lover or a hater?
I might well be both. I'm kind of on the fence at the moment.
You can't be both.
I
It's
can be
impossible.
both. I'm allowed to have two opinions at once, both of which conflict each other. Because I liked it a lot. My overriding emotion from the Battlefront beta was squee and isn't this fun? But I completely have empathy with people having problems with it. But I guess overall, by and large, I thought it was a very good video game.
I was blown away when I loaded the game up. It had that stealth Destiny recording.
Already,
It had
wow.
that Destiny feel for me of something that really visually blew me away. The whole production, the textures are so tangible. It's like I could feel the stormtrooper's armor. I could see the kind of rivets on the armor. I thought it looked incredible.
Yeah, the attention to detail is mental, and it looks phenomenal as well. And I just think that alone is going to be enough to basically make Star Wars fans happy. I can't. I think it's probably the best Star Wars game since BioWare's first Knights of the Republic in terms of capturing kind of a feel of the universe that well.
So the big accusations leveled against the beta that I saw was um, one that it's superfluous the game. So it's skin deep. So you get the visuals and there's nothing below it. And that criticism I felt came a lot from the Battlefield crowd, which are used to something deep.
That's weird though
There.
because I'm the Battlefield crowd basically. I've spent hundreds of hours playing for two like bad company I love Battlefield to bits. And when everyone was saying, "Oh my god, this is going to be like Battlefield or Star Wars skin," like that's just what I wanted. That's just exactly what I wanted. And now I've played Battlefront, I've seen it isn't that. It's not that similar to Battlefield. I mean, it's got like skin deep similarities, but it's a casual game. It's a much more casual game because Star Wars is a casual thing. Star Wars is like a big dumb casual thing, and there's not a problem with that at all. I'd like to celebrate it for that. It's mass market. It's the most mass market thing I think you can get. So of course this was never going to be a really hardcore shooter. And also the other thing as well, we have only played a slim part of the beta in the 3 days. There's only like three modes effectively, although one of them I don't even count because it was the waves one. The single player one shouldn't work that well. So
Yeah, mission.
I think there's loads more to go in there. And once I'd readjusted my expectations and realised this wasn't going to be Battlefield, it was going to be something a bit dumber and a bit more casual. I was totally fine with it, and I was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I loved that the matinee feel to it because like you say, Star Wars has that matinee vibe to me, which is it is a bit silly. It's not serious. It doesn't really make sense. When you shoot people, they twirl around like
Yeah,
synchronized swimmers and fall down, and that kind of violence isn't there. It's got big silly machines that shouldn't really work, but they do. They're stomping around. Yeah, you touched a bit on the other kind of criticism, which people saying, Battlefield doesn't have Battlefront. I keep getting these mixed up. Doesn't have a single player mode. It does technically, but I know what they mean. A kind of story-based mode that they can get into before they play the multiplayer. But this is largely a multiplayer game. You
yeah.
can do missions which are single player or co-op, but
But
they're not the same thing.
I also think as well, if anybody's had the misfortune of playing a DICE single player game in the last few years, like we've been saved basically, because I love Battlefield 4. I never got to play the campaign because that bug which basically wiped the save data. But I think in some way the game was doing me a favour in basically saying, look, really don't bother with this. Just go and play multiplayer because that's what it's about. And we've also got Amy Hennig's Star Wars game coming up soon, so I think that's going to scratch that itch. Yeah, I can see why people want the single player Star Wars thing, but this isn't the time for it. DICE are doing this. Their expertise is in multiplayer, and I think it's best just to have the focus on multiplayer. And I quite like a game that's brave enough to say, look, this is what we're good at. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to double down on that.
Me too. I mean, it's a long time ago now, but a similar thing with Quake 2 and Quake 3. Quake 2, it had a campaign. I don't think I ever played it. And then Quake 3 came along. It had the same idea and just went, well, so what? We're just not going to do a campaign. We're just going to do a multiplayer game. And I applauded them. And I think with Battlefront that works quite well as a companion thing with the film because I don't like it when games come out and they retread the story of the film and you basically play through the film. I like how this is kind of a companion experience. So you go, the film was great, hopefully. Now, if you want to go and do some massive wars in Star Wars world, yes, go and be a part of that.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes you just want to hear the lasers, you just want to hear the sounds, you just want to see TIE fighters.
And they sound great. When you're on Hoth, the Walker Assault on Hoth level, which is 40 people, so 20 aside, with the big AT-AT walkers and the AT-STs, and like a handful of different ships in the sky, it feels like a really big war. This is one thing that I really liked, actually. You get killed from all sides. Trying to actually get a good kill-death ratio in that game, in that mode, is tough.
Yeah.
Because people are just popping out wherever and shooting you. But especially when you get to the trenches area, it starts to feel actually like trench warfare, where you pop your head up, you get zapped down by lasers. It does quite a nice job of a big scale war feel.
That is kind of where the Battlefield similarities are, and that's where this game does really excel as well. And having that kind of making you feel like you're part of something a lot bigger, basically. When you've got TIE fighters and X-Wings and that's like A-Wings screaming overhead. And you just feel like you're part of this massive story and you're just a grunt. And that's kind of nice being a grunt and not being a hero.
Yeah.
Well, that obviously you can be the hero in that. And that's one of the things I'm less convinced by, actually, when you do get the hero powers. That's the one thing I don't like at the moment, is I think it could do with losing that. I don't know what it adds, having Darth and Luke all of a sudden rolling around with quite bad combat mechanics and then just kneeling down and disappearing weirdly.
So I was going to say, I thought they were both a bit naff in the beta. I love the music you hear when someone gets the power up, and I soiled myself, I think, the first time Darth Vader was face to face with me. Even though he's a bit weedy in the game, I expect him, he's bigger in my head. But their powers don't seem to amount to much. They don't seem to change the game away. A good AT-ST Walker controller, like someone playing that can, all the way a good bomber can, or a good someone taking control of the skies can.
Yeah.
They didn't seem to be. They just seemed to sort of run across the battle, do a sort of cameo, few kills, and then die.
It feels a bit clumsy as well, just because everything else is so well tuned. Like the lasers and everything feel amazing. I know all my friends have been complaining and saying, they don't feel as good as guns in Destiny, but I think it's because of the nature of their lasers, they're pew-pew guns, they're pew-pews.
They are brilliant pew-pews.
Yeah, they're not going to have the kind of the heft of like a Destiny auto rifle or like feel like a Battlefield gun. They're like, by their nature, they're like these weird reedy things, and they nail that really well.
I did play as Darth. I didn't play as Luke, and it's an odd experience. You are powerful, but you sort of float around. And
yeah, I played as both, and like I never felt like a hero when I was both of them. I felt like an idiot. Because I was just from having this kind of cool experience where I was hunkering down in a bunker, it was laser fire gun. All of a sudden, I was just spamming my way across a map, doing my best, and like my lightsaber dash is missing people by about like 5 feet. I was the worst Jedi ever.
It's odd, but it's odd to play a Star Wars game and not want to be the people with the lightsaber and actually kind of settle back down into that soldier role, which it does so well. You get the idea that you are expendable as these, effectively you're playing as an extra in the film, which is impressive. So the other thing, the Walker Assault battle on Hoth, the other major talking point I thought from the beta was that everyone was complaining that the rebels were underpowered, and that the rebels kept getting beaten by the basically just the stronger Imperial force that have got access to the AT-AT walkers with their really powerful lasers and their orbital strikes, and then the AT-STs. I saw 2 people on the map I was playing. They were amazing. They must have been coordinating this, but 2 AT-ST walkers absolutely just charged ahead of their pack and then pulverised our force. And somehow they kept them moving to avoid all of the sort of anti-AT-ST stuff they could do. And it's just total domination. I was impressed. And when people are playing like that, it is hard not to feel like this is a little bit unfair.
Yeah, I actually had a relatively good experience in that I won about 20% of the games I did when I was playing as a rebel, which I think probably isn't as much as other people. I'm not, that's because I'm well good at games, innit? It's not that at all. I was just on a good side. But it's weird though, because I think DICE's games before, like Battlefield and that, it's always been about cooperation and about having good squad play. In Battlefront, in this Battlefront, you've only got you can only partner up, so you can only be with one other person at a time. Whereas in Battlefield, you had four player squads, and it makes a huge difference, basically. And I just don't think people are coordinating enough as well. And I think if you had more coordination, you'd see more victories for the rebels, basically, on that.
Yeah,
but the game doesn't help that though, by only letting you be with one other person at a time.
I did win as the rebels a handful of times, so they were winning quite regularly, which made me think actually they're not underpowered. I just don't think people are using their assets wisely enough here. And in fact, if you control the skies in your A-wing and airspeeder power-ups, in fact, I got really close. I got the cables out around an AT-AT's legs. And I was doing the little mini game, and I didn't complete the mini game, but I was actually doing it. You have to wait for a period of vulnerability on the AT-ATs, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to take down like one of the 2 objectives in the game for my team," and then I crashed like an idiot. But it was great. But then I have seen online actually, just recently, DICE developers and community managers are saying, yes, the Walker Assault on Hoth is unbalanced. So they've recognised this and they are going to somehow tweak it.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole point of the beta, isn't it? Really, to have all
but
this
I quite liked being an underdog. I thought that was the whole point.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Actually, I quite like that. The fact it is inherently, because it just makes victory taste a little sweeter when you get it. But I also do understand, because it was. I think it was happening less than it should be, based on Rebels winning. But I still think I agree with you. There should be a degree of imbalance in it as well. That's what makes it kind of cool. It's got that asymmetry to it, where you're just fighting with lasers and blasters basically, and they've got everything else in their arsenal.
Yeah, but there were more. I mean, as you control different points on the map, get to know the layout of the power-ups, and as you get to grips with how the machines work and you start using them effectively, especially the aircraft, I think there are layers of hidden depth. Yes, you're all effectively shooting the same gun with slightly different range, but I think that's what people see on the surface. But I think below that, as you start to dig into the maps, there's quite a lot there.
Yeah, it was a weird mode as well to put in the beta, I think, Walker Assault. The drop zone one would made a lot more sense, and
which was good fun.
I think I had more fun with that, but it didn't have, in terms of like gameplay mechanics, I had more fun with it. But it didn't have the spectacle, because you want to be in Hoth with AT-ATs, basically. Because it's more iconic rather than being in some weird lava place that's never been in any of the films.
Yeah, it was visually spectacular, Hoth, but it was a big, daunting mode. Whereas Drop Zone, where you race to control these pods, is like A to side, and it's much more close combat, and you're in these kind of little valleys in this canyon.
Yeah.
It was much more shootout feel. We're kind of coming to the end of our time, but I just wanted to say the other thing people, I don't think, realised. I mean, some people want a single player game, and that's fine. Other people didn't think there was going to be much there, and it's worth reiterating. We've only seen a fraction of the game. There's going to be 12 multiplayer maps with different modes on, of course. Walker Assault is a mode, not a map. And it's worth pointing out there's Supremacy, which is another 20 versus 20 big thing where you control points, and that's going to have heroes and vehicles on. There's Cargo Run, where you both start with 5. It's like capture the cargo, and you capture the flag, and you both start at 5-all, and then when one team captures cargo, it goes to 6-4 and carries on like that. And I think that's either 8 or 10 people inside.
There's going to be loads more as well. The other big controversy was the season pass, which people are kind of up and down.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I get this. So it's £40.
Yeah,
but that's as much as a game, and they're asking you to pay £40 for something you don't know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. That is a fun. That is just you can't really defend that, because it's mental, the fact that you're allowed to sell a promise basically, and no one knows what it is, and they're not going to say what it is either. Which is just, it's crazy, and I wouldn't recommend doing it. I would say don't buy the season pass right now. But as someone who still plays Battlefield now, 2 years after it came out, I did eventually get the season pass for that, but I waited 6 months, I think, just to make sure that I actually liked this game. And yeah, I did. I bought it, and now stuff's still coming. Like there's new maps dropped just last week for Battlefield 4. DICE have got an incredibly good track record of doing really, really good post-game support. And I imagine that'll be the same for Battlefront. The question mark is basically, is Battlefront going to be the game that's going to keep me playing for 2 years?
That's a big question for me as well.
And I think I'm going to love it, and I'm going to enjoy my first month or two of it. But I don't know if I'm going to still be playing it in 2 years' time, and so that's why I'm not sure about the season pass. But that's why I'd advise you to wait. And don't pay £100 on something for the whole lot when you haven't actually figured out if you like this game or not just yet.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So there are other modes. Go to the EA Star Wars Battlefront website. You can read about all the different modes and maps that are going to be in the full game when it launches. Save your money for now for the season pass. Wait till they announce something. That's what I would do. I think that's what Martin's saying he would do. Another quick word on performance in the beta. It was rock solid for me on PS4. How was it for you, Martin?
Yeah, pretty much. I was on PS4 as well. Pretty much rock solid. A few glitches, a few like bodies floating around that I hope aren't there when the final thing comes out. But other than that, it was all fine.
Yeah, and 9 million people spamming the servers was a pretty good stress test. So let's hope. I know there were problems on PC when it first came up, but let's hope those get sorted out. Otherwise, I'm very excited about it. I can't wait to play it. 17th of November it comes out. PC, PS4, Xbox One. Thanks for listening, watching. If you liked what you have seen and heard, do subscribe. But otherwise, we will hopefully be with you soon.
Ta-ra!
Thanks, bye!